If you hear breathing tonight, but you're alone, or catch a glimpse of a face behind your curtain, maybe it's time to double check your windows. These 3 stories are real, and they could happen to you. This happened when I was 22, living alone in a small 1-bedroom apartment just outside of Bangor, Maine. The place wasn't great, thin walls, drafty windows, weird neighbors, but it was cheap, and at the time, that's all I cared about. My bedroom faced the back of the building, overlooking a patch of overgrown grass and trees. It was quiet, usually dark, and had a kind of stillness that made it easy to sleep. Until one night in November. It was just past 2 a.m. I had fallen asleep reading, still wearing my hoodie and socks, curled up under the comforter. I remember because I woke up hot, like I was sweating through the fabric. But when I opened my eyes, the room felt wrong. The kind of wrong where you don't know why you woke up, but your body's absolutely sure it had a reason. The apartment was dead quiet, and the only light came from the street lamp behind the trees outside. It cast long, twisted shadows across the ceiling. That's when I noticed something. My window was open. Just a crack, maybe 2 or 3 inches, but enough to let in the cold. I never slept with the window open. Ever. I hate cold air while I sleep, and I always double-check it before bed. I sat up slowly, confused and a little unnerved. I thought maybe I had left it cracked by accident earlier in the day. But when I looked closer, I saw the lock. It was unlatched. And here's the part that still makes my stomach drop when I think about it. There was dirt on the inside of the windowsill, like someone had touched it, smudged it. I reached out and shut the window, latched it tight. I was trying to rationalize it. Maybe the maintenance guy had come in earlier that day. Maybe I forgot to lock it after airing the room out. But none of that made sense. I had been home all day. No one came in. I checked the rest of the apartment. Nothing disturbed. Door was locked. Everything normal. Still, I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I just laid there in bed, listening. The next night, I pushed a chair under the window, just in case. Then I went to bed with the lights off and the curtains pulled halfway. Around 3:30 a.m., I woke up again. This time, to the sound of something tapping. Very light, deliberate, coming from the window. I didn't move. I just opened my eyes slowly and stared at the ceiling. The tapping stopped. Then I saw it, the faintest outline of a head just above the windowsill. Not a full face, just the top part. Hairline, forehead, barely visible. Whoever it was, they were standing there, watching me sleep through the slightly open curtain. I couldn't breathe. I didn't move. I prayed they thought I was still asleep. After maybe a minute, the shadow slowly moved away. I waited another full hour before getting up. I didn't turn on the lights. I didn't go to the window. The next morning, I found boot prints in the dirt outside, leading up to the window and away from it. Deep ones, like someone had been standing there for a while. I called the landlord. He brushed it off, said it was probably some drunk neighbor or random trespasser. He didn't take me seriously, but I know what I saw. I bought a cheap motion sensor camera the same day. The next few nights, nothing. Then, on the 4th night, at exactly 3:37 a.m. the camera went off. But the footage was corrupted. Just a frozen frame of the window, with what looked like a handprint on the glass. I moved out 3 weeks later. Never figured out who it was. But now, even years later, I still sleep with every window locked and a heavy curtain drawn shut. Point one. I was 17 when this happened. I had just moved into the basement room of our house after my older brother left for college. It wasn't anything fancy, just a small room with a single window up high near the ceiling and one door that led back into the laundry area. But I loved it. It felt separate from the rest of the house. Private. At the time, my parents were going through a rough patch, constantly arguing upstairs. Being in the basement gave me distance from it all. I started spending almost all my time down there, doing homework, playing games, watching movies late into the night. The room had a creaky heating vent on the wall right next to the bed, and every time the heat kicked on, it groaned like old bones shifting. I got used to the sounds pretty quickly, or at least I thought I did. One night in mid-October, I went to bed around 1 a.m. I remember that clearly because I had just finished watching a horror movie on my laptop. Probably a bad idea in hindsight, but I was in that weird teenage headspace where scaring yourself felt kind of cool. I turned off the lights and laid there for a while, scrolling on my phone. Eventually, I drifted off with my face half buried in the pillow and my back toward the room. I don't know what time it was when I woke up, but it wasn't morning. The basement was pitch black, save for the faint orange glow of my power strip under the desk. Everything was dead silent. No furnace, no pipes, just silence. That's when I realized something felt off. It wasn't a sound that woke me. It was this intense feeling, like my body had recognized something before my brain could catch up, like being stared at. And then I heard it. Breathing. Slow, steady, shallow breathing. But it wasn't mine. Mine was shaky. Panicked? This was different. It was close, too close, like someone standing beside the bed. I froze. My eyes were still facing the wall. I didn't dare roll over. I thought maybe it was my imagination, maybe a leftover sound from the dream I had been in. But then it stopped. The breathing just cut off. No footsteps. No shifting. Just silence again. I laid there for what felt like forever. My heart was pounding so loud it felt like it might give me away. Eventually, I summoned the nerve to roll over slowly, expecting to see nothing. Just empty darkness. But that's not what I saw. For a split second, just a flash, I saw something. A shape. A tall silhouette between the end of my bed and the door. I blinked and it was gone. Or maybe it never was there to begin with. I sat up and turned on my phone flashlight, then lunged for the switch on the wall. Light flooded the room. Nothing. Door was closed. Window still latched. No signs of anything or anyone. I even checked the tiny crawl space in the corner of the basement. Empty. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I sat in the laundry room with the light on until morning. The next day I told my mom, and she brushed it off as a dream. "You were probably half asleep," she said. But I know I wasn't. I've had sleep paralysis. I know what it feels like to be stuck. This wasn't that. This was real. A week later, we had a plumber over to check on the furnace. He ended up poking around behind the walls and insulation. At some point, he called my dad downstairs and quietly showed him something. Turns out, someone had been living in the crawl space. There were wrappers, a filthy blanket, empty water bottles, scratched writing on the beams. We never caught who it was. We don't know how long they'd been there. but I moved my bedroom back upstairs that same day. And even now, years later, I still flinch awake sometimes, thinking I hear breathing that isn't mine. I've never told anyone this. Not because I'm afraid they won't believe me, though they probably wouldn't, but because I don't like to think about it. Even now, writing this down, my hands are shaking. It was the summer after I graduated high school. I was 18 and still living with my mom in a small, one-story house in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing bad ever happened there. It was one of those places where people left their doors unlocked at night. My bedroom was at the end of the hallway. Small, square, with just a bed, a nightstand, and a dresser. My bed didn't have a frame, just a mattress on a metal base that sat about 8 inches off the floor. Enough room underneath to store junk, but I never put anything there. I didn't like the idea of anything being under me while I slept. That summer, my mom worked night shifts at the hospital, so most nights I was home alone. It never bothered me. I liked the quiet. One night around 11:30, I was lying in bed, scrolling on my phone, when I heard something. A soft, rhythmic sound, almost like scratching. Not loud, not frantic, just steady. At first, I thought it was coming from outside, but after I muted my phone and listened closely, I realized it was coming from inside my room. Specifically, under my bed. I froze. I didn't want to believe it. My heart started pounding, but I forced myself to stay quiet. I turned off my phone screen so the room went completely dark, and I just listened. Pause. My brain was scrambling to come up with any explanation. Maybe the cat had gotten in. But we didn't have a cat. A rodent? But the sound was too slow, too deliberate. Then it stopped. Total silence. I sat there for what felt like forever. Eventually, I whispered, "Hello?" Nothing. And then the bed moved. Just a tiny shift, like someone had pressed a hand up against the underside of the mattress. I jumped out of bed and bolted out of the room so fast I nearly knocked over a lamp in the hallway. I didn't go back in until the sun came up. The next morning, I got a flashlight and knelt down to look under the bed. There was nothing there. No bugs. No mice. No sign of anything. But the weirdest part? There were fingernail marks. Small scratches. 5 at a time. Dozens of them, all in different directions, carved lightly into the paint on the baseboard, directly under where I had been lying. I didn't tell my mom. Didn't tell anyone. I thought maybe I was just losing it. But the next night, the same thing happened. Same time. Same scratching. This time, I didn't run. I grabbed my phone, flipped on the flashlight, and looked under the bed in real time. Nothing. Just empty space. But as I was backing away, I heard it, the sound of breathing, coming from directly behind me. I spun around, but the room was empty. Every night after that, the scratching came back. Always around 11:30. Always under the bed. I started sleeping on the couch. Eventually, I stopped sleeping altogether. 2 weeks later, my mom found me sitting on the floor in the kitchen with the lights on, whispering to myself. She made me see someone. The therapist told me it was sleep deprivation, that my mind was playing tricks on me. But here's the part that matters. I haven't lived in that house in years. And still, once in a while, just as I'm falling asleep, I swear I hear scratching from under the bed. If you made it this far, Maybe you belong here? Subscribe to Whisper Cage, more true horror is waiting.